And you are all good to start.
Thank you very much, Katie. Good morning and welcome to our Grants Committee meeting for May 9th, 2022. Very excited on this beautiful sunny Monday to start a day with Grants Committee meeting. So call the meeting to order, and the land acknowledgement, which is that the Halifax Regional Municipality is located in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and traditional lands of the Mi'kmaq people. The municipality acknowledges the peace and friendship treaty signed in this territory and recognizes that we are all treaty people. So we'll, in virtual meetings, we'll do our roll call and make sure that video and audio are working. So Councillor Trish Purdy with District 4.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Grants Committee members and staff and everyone watching at home.
Great. Councillor Lindell Smith, who's going to be a few minutes late. Councillor Lisa Blackburn, District 14.
Hello, good morning, everyone, and hope all the moms out there had a lovely Mother's Day.
Indeed. Alana Baxter, our Vice Chair.
Good morning, everyone. Apologies for no video, but I'm here and a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. Joseph Allen.
Good morning, everyone. It's a nice sunny day in Halifax.
Yay, good morning. Alex Handyside.
Hello, yes, good morning from sunny District 5, not the dark side.
Thank you. Stefan Ludin.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Stefan. Leona Milne has sent her regrets. And Emily Jackson.
Good morning.
Morning, Emily. And we have a guest with us today, Councillor Paul Russell.
Good morning from Lower Sackville. It is also wonderfully sunny here.
Great. And our clerk today is Katie Campbell.
Hi, everyone.
And we also have with us our legislative assistant, Jill McGillicuddy.
Jill is doing legislative support today.
Legislative support. Well, there you go. Okay. And so it looks like we're all ready to roll. Approval of the minutes of April 11th, 2022. Any errors or omissions? If not, may we have a mover and a seconder for the minutes?
I'll move that we accept the minutes of April 11th, 2022 as presented, please.
Thank you, Lisa. Seconder?
I'll second.
Thank you, Trish. By the way, Councillor Russell, we're a little informal and we use first names in this committee. Just, we're not being disrespectful, just so you know.
Super, thank you.
Approval of the order of business and approval of the additions and deletions. Any additions or deletions, Katie?
There are no additions or deletions.
Madam Chair, I've got a question about the agenda, though.
Absolutely.
It's later on. It's under the item that says 9.1.2, and I can see a small but very significant typo.
Would that be a missing number 1?
No. If you look under 9.1.2, it's got items 1, 2, 3, 4, etc.
Yes.
And items 2 and items 4 refer, just look at the dates. Item 2 refers to 2022-23, and item 4 refers to 24-25. But item 3, there's a typo because it also refers to 22-23. When we go to the actual document, the line item 3 refers to 23-24. So that is a small but significant typo.
Perhaps when we get to that item on the agenda, we might look at that, and because this is multi-year, Alex, it might be that. And so when we get to this agenda item, we'll clarify that. How's that?
Okay, if you wish, yes.
Okay, thank you. There is a typo in 9.1.2, item 1. It says approve 47 event grants for a total of 92,875, and it should be 192,875. So with that correction, could we have approval of the order of business?
I still,
Joe, did I see that?
Yeah, I'll call for the order.
I'll call.
Alex, were you good for a second there?
I'll second, certainly.
Thank you very much. Business arising out of the minutes, there were none. Call for declaration of conflict of interests. Hearing none, we'll move on. Consideration of deferred business, there was none. Correspondence, petitions, and delegations. Katie, do we have any correspondence received by the clerk's office?
No, we do not.
Thank you. Any petitions?
We have received no petitions as well.
Any presentations?
No presentations.
We're rocking this agenda, I'll tell you. Items brought forward. There was a memorandum from Finance and Asset Management dated April 11th, 2022 around tax relief for nonprofits during constructions and renos. So that was an information item that was part of your agenda package. Moving on to reports from staff. Our first item is 9.1.1. The Lions Club of Sackville, 101 Beaver Bank Road, Lower Sackville, PID 40014599. There is a motion. Should anyone like to put that on the table for discussion?
I can put that on the table, Madam Chair. It's down out my neighborhood way. I would like to move that the Grants Committee recommend that Halifax Regional Council approve a less than market value lease agreement with the Lions Club of Sackville for PID 40014599, located at 101 Beaver Bank Road, as per the key terms and conditions set out in Table 1 in the discussion section of this report, and authorize the mayor and municipal clerk to execute the approved less than market value lease agreement. I so move.
Thank you very much. Do we have a seconder?
I will second.
Thank you. I think I saw Steph's hand up.
Oh, okay.
And just want to make note that in the body of the motion, it should read 101 Old Beaver Bank Road. The folks who live at 101 Beaver Bank Road, I'm sure would be thrilled to get a less than market tax assessment, but it's 101 Old Beaver Bank Road that we're discussing here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any discussion on this motion? We had a nice staff report.
Yes, nothing further to add, Madam Chair. The staff report sets it out. This has been several years in the making, and glad that we were able to come to an agreement with the Lions Club, because they are the backbone of the Sackville community.
Awesome. Then shall we call for the question?
Question?
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions, motion carried. Well, I'm sure they're all going to be happy. Moving on, item 9.1.2, which is a regional special events grants report. And I'm sure everybody had a fantastic time looking at all of the wonderful things that are going to be happening in our municipality coming up. So there's a significant motion here. There's also a staff memo. Before we get to putting the motion on the floor, maybe we could address the question that Alex had on item number 3 in the motion. And would that be answered by Elizabeth or Sherry? Oh, Sherry, you got your hand up. Thank you.
Yeah, I can take that. Now,
Oh, excuse me.
I do agree, and that is a typo in the agenda. Motion number 3 should read.
Sherry,
Can you hear me okay?
and really bad.
No.
No.
Sherry, could you start that again, please?
Yeah. Certainly. I'm experiencing difficulty hearing you as well, but I will say again, I do agree with the committee member who brought up the typo in motion number 3. It should read 22 sorry,
Okay.
should read 2023, 2024 in motion number 3.
So if I hear you correctly, pending final approval of, it should be 2023, 2024 budget.
Correct.
Great, thank you. So, Sherry, is there a presentation for this motion at all, or just a discussion if there's any questions?
No real presentation for you today. Just a quick summary of what we will be discussing today. Within the staff report is 60 event grant recommendations to be funded from our C760 operating budget, as well as 1 supplementary grant withdrawal from the Community and Events Reserve, which is to continue funding Open Streets Halifax. So in addition to the report is the staff memo, which we have included, and that's regarding a late application due to extenuating circumstances within the organization, hence probably why Councillor Russell is here today. Staff do recommend accepting the late application to fund Patriot Days through the Community and Events Reserve. We did provide a motion for your consideration within the staff memo, and both Elizabeth Taylor and myself are here to answer any questions that the committee may have on the report and the additional memo.
Thank you very much. So committee members, perhaps what we'll do is if we could put the motion on the floor, and then we will discuss it. So would someone like to read this beautiful long motion? There you go, Joe. Thank you.
No worries. It's a fairly hefty one today, so
It is.
the coffee. All right, here we go. It is recommended that the Grants Committee recommend that the Halifax Regional Council approve 47 event grants at a total of $192,875 as identified in Table 1 from the approved 2022-2023 operating budget, C760 Community Civic Events. Number 2, approve 13 event grants for a total of $200,000 as identified in Table 1 from the approved 2022-2023 operating budget, C764 Cultural Development Funded from the 2022-2023 Cultural Development Reserve, Q621. Number 3, pending final approval of the 2023-2024 budget, approve 38 established community event festival grants in the amount of $186,025 funded from the operating budget C760 community civic events, and 13 cultural events and showcase grants in the amount of $200,000 funded from the operating budget of C764 cultural development funded from the Community Events Reserve Q621 as identified in Table 2. Continue number 4, pending final approval of the 2024-2025 budget, approve 38 established community events grants in the amount of $186,025 funded from the operating budget C760 community and civic events, and 13 cultural events and showcases grants in the amount of $200,000 funded from the operating budget C764 cultural development funded from the Community Events Reserve Q621 as identified in Table 3. And approve a supplementary grant withdrawal from the Community Events Reserve Q621 in the amount of $13,000 to be allocated to the Open Streets Halifax, previously operating as Switch in the regional specific special events program. It's a hefty one today.
It is. So maybe we'll do the first 5 and then we'll do the second half. Does that sound appropriate for everyone? Great. Okay. Is there a seconder for that so far?
Alana,
Second.
second.
Okay.
Alana, thank you. And we'll use the chat to keep a list of persons who would like to speak to this. So first I have on the list is Lisa, Councillor Blackburn.
Hi there, Madam Chair. Actually, you know what? I'm wanting to speak to the second half of this motion dealing with the Sackville Community Development Association. So
Okay.
I'll hit pause on that for a moment. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there anyone have any questions about this? I do have one, and it's just on number 5. On the open streets, it says 13,000, and in the body of the report, it says 12,000. So maybe Elizabeth, you might be able to answer that for us.
Yes, good morning, Chair, Councillor. Can you hear me all right?
I can, thank you.
Good. I'm keeping my video off because it's a little spotty at the moment. So I think it's better that you can hear me. So the reason why they're 2 different numbers, it's not a typo. The grant has always been the 13,000, and we wrote a council report that was in support of the open street method of events. And in the report, the actual recommendation was that we would add to this budget an extra 13,000 because their municipal service costs were 25,000. So in total, the amount that they would be receiving each year, which is what council had intended, and the report was written, but unfortunately we didn't put in the word annual. So this is why we've done it from an unbudgeted report. An unbudgeted withdrawal. It was just missing that little word annual, and we want to be able to, and I know council wanted to support them on an annual basis so that they could hold these 2 large open street events, one in Dartmouth and one in Halifax, and could have their municipal service costs covered.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that response. Councillor Purdy, Trish, you're next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'm not sure if this is in reference to part 1 or part 2 of this, so just stop me if this is for the second part of the recommendations. But just wondering, concern about page 3 of the report down kind of at the bottom. So the increase in funding that's recommended by staff of the 38 established community festival applicants. If regional council approves the recommendations to fund the 13 cultural events and showcases, there will be no budget capacity to accept applications until 25-26. And so the concern is like, what could be the potential negative impact of that? Like how, if there's no more capacity for another few years, is that good?
Yes. Through you, Chair, to the councillor, good morning. Unfortunately, that is been the case for the last 6 years. These are 3-year cycles. These are cultural events that are annual, and we have $200,000. And in order to fund them at the level that they should receive funding to continue, the full 200,000 is spent. So for the past 3 years, we were able to accept no applications. Now, of course, that was a COVID, 3 years. So obviously we didn't have any, but we haven't found it too big a problem, frankly, because if it is a larger cultural event with a larger budget, that goes over to our marketing levy special events reserve program, of which Councillor Russell is the chair, and we usually fund it through that. So while it looks like it's restrictive because we can't open it up, what I will tell you is most of the annual, I would say, if not most, all of the large annual cultural festivals are covered either in this program or the MILSA program.
Okay, thank you. That actually clarifies. It's no longer a concern anymore. I understand. Okay, so just the wording in the report makes it seem like it's kind of, but it's a 3-year standing grant.
Correct.
So I mean that makes total sense. Thanks.
You're very welcome.
Great. Next on our list is Alex.
Hello, yes. So many of these grant requests and then what is proposed are, I mean, it varies from the requester that gets 100% of what they asked for, and some only get 15% of what they asked for. It would be great if we had a bit more information as to how staff have reached those figures. I mean, looking at some of the big ones, for example, the Halifax County exhibition, they asked for 25 grand, and for the next 3 years, we're going to give them 25 grand if we approve this. Whereas there are some that, you know, they asked for a significant amount, and they're only getting a tiny amount in the proposed. I mean, so how did staff reach some of these numbers? And last of all, by the way, on I mean, what's this called? Attachment 2. At the very bottom of attachment 2, there's 4 stars. Tallahassee is misspelled.
Thank you very much. Through you, Madam Chair. We have a scoring system, Mr. Handyside, that we use. We get applications that we take the information regarding attendance. Budget is very key to the scoring process. We have not shared scores usually with the committee because the applications have sometimes personal information. However, if it's the will of the committee that they would like to see our scoring, there is absolutely no issue at all with that. We'd be delighted to share that. We'll just have to redact some information, people's addresses and phone numbers and that kind of thing. You bring up the county exhibition. That's an interesting one. That has been mandated by council for the last, I believe, 25 years, that event receives $25,000. If you or members of the committee want to make a motion, you know, to reduce that, you are of course more than welcome. But that is probably one of the largest festivals that happens in the summer. And we justify that not only because it is mandated by council, but also with the attendance numbers and with their budget and with their reputation. In the administrative order and in the report, we give you an indication of how we do score these and what the significance is to the community. For instance, you will find that some of the asks are in fact not in line with the attendance numbers of the budget or that we see, which may be why you're looking at something and see that it's much lower than the ask. We try to work with each of our applicants, and if we see an ask that is extraordinarily high for an event that we know, because we do attend most of the events, so we have a good understanding of what has taken place, although again through COVID it's a little different. But I guess there are 2 answers to your questions. If you would like the chair to have us include the scores, we'd be delighted to do that for next year. And your question about Sackville, or not Sackville Patriot Days, county exhibition is because it's mandated by council. And some of the requests as far as them not getting their ask are usually because the numbers simply don't add up. And of course, we're very conscious. We only have a certain amount of money for the, you know, for the budget. So I think this year we're able to fund almost everyone at their ask. And that is because there have been so many events that have not or will no longer take place because of COVID and because they've lost so many volunteers. It's really been a different landscape for small festivals and events this summer because of the ravages that COVID did on the volunteer arena that helped to produce these festivals.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for that. That's pretty much what I was expecting you to say. My concern, though, really is over the optics. Without going into the scores or a bit more explanation, for example, in attachment 1, the Eid celebration, they have requested 4,000 and the proposal is only 750. That doesn't really look good without some explanation. Some of the other ones, like the Halifax, which one was it? The Independent Film Festival. I'm looking for, here it is, yes, the Filmmakers Festival. They asked for 20 and the proposal is just for 3,000. That doesn't look good for the entire film and arts sector without a bit of explanation.
Fair enough. Those are actually two groups that we have been in constant contact with. The Eid Festival, they were interested in learning about the program. They were not sure about the restrictions or what in fact was provided to them. So we've been working with them through Councillor Outhead to help them understand. And the film group, we had some conversations with them as well, because they did not understand the maximums of the particular program that they were applying to, and 20,000 was just simply not what their budget. I think their budget was similar to that, and this program does not fund 100% up to 100% of a budget. We would ask that there's corporate sponsorship, and so we try very hard to work with our clients to make them, you know, but I take your point very much that in the report where we give a section on each of these, it might be better, you know. We also don't want to, you know, infer that the community groups don't, you know, want to ask for more, perhaps because they don't understand the program. So that's why we do a lot of these offline conversations with them, so that the next time they apply in 3 years, you know, they'll have a better understanding of what they're applying for. And I mean, I think there's a little bit of, you know what, if we ask for something, maybe we'll get it, you know. And we also work with our festivals and events colleagues over the province, because most of these festivals are also clients of the festival and events program of the province, and we meet every couple of months with them and talk about shared files. So if there is an issue with the clients, or there is a misunderstanding, or they have, you know, not been able to give us enough information, we definitely share those files and try to, you know, sort of share our funding models so they're consistent.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
Is it possible then that, you know, I take Alex's point really well as well. So if we could have another section sort of at the end of the descriptor of the event that would just say, out of a score of, you know, if it's a score of 100, how do people score? It doesn't have to be too much of the detail, so that we could protect the integrity of the volunteer groups. But Alex, do you think that would be sufficient?
Well, I don't know if we actually need to go into actual scores. I think staff's explanation was very good.
Okay.
I think perhaps it just needs an extra sentence on each one of these community events. You know, when we get into attachment 3, there's a paragraph there. I think that's the ideal place to say that, yes, they requested 10,000, but they were really only eligible to ask for 3,000, and that's why they got 2,000.
Okay.
Something like that would be absolutely
Right.
fine. It's to
Through
do
you
with
to the
the
chair.
eligibility, yes.
Absolutely,
I-
we can do that. Absolutely, we'll make a note of that.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I see Sherry's
Thank
hand up.
you.
Great, thank you. Can you hear me okay? I can turn my video off if I'm still spotty with audio.
Can hear you well now.
You can hear me okay now? Right. Okay. I just wanted to add on with what Elizabeth said in the beginning, answering the committee member's question. In the community celebrations category, there is a maximum amount that we fund, which is $1,000. So some organizations may not 100% understand or read the criteria or the details regarding the maximum that the program funds. So EID Celebration, as example, asked for 4,000, but the max that program funds is only 1,000. So 750 out of the 1,000 is what staff is recommending. And also just to touch on the question regarding the film, which goes back to staff internally scoring, which of course we can certainly provide. But for that specific event, the attendance was, maybe only 1% of what another event that we fund a lot higher of an amount. 1,000 to 2,000 attending an event versus 10,000 or 15,000. Hence, the staff recommended lower amount for that specific event.
Thank you, Sherry. So next on our list, we have Lindell.
Thank you very much. So really quickly, I'm thinking about the last conversation, which actually changed my initial question. So just give me a second to think here. It's gone. I guess I'm having a moment. Wow.
I can come back and give you a moment. How's that?
All right, let me just look at my notes here because I did make notes. Maybe that will help here. Right. So the open street, the municipal costs. I know there was a motion some time ago at council that did talk about us somehow trying to support nonprofits in those costs related to municipal services. But I think we needed some changes with the province, or I can't remember the exact conversation, but maybe somebody can help with that.
Yes, through you.
My memory is something about that it's a provincial legislation that we have to use Halifax Regional Police for the open streets. Was that it? That we have to use police?
We do, and yes, I wrote that report, so I can give you, you're absolutely right, both of you councillors, that the Motor Vehicle Act is in the midst of being changed. However, there is no change to the fact that we wanted to use special constables to be able to assist in traffic management, and unfortunately we have to use HRP officers, and of course that's what costs the increase in these types of events, because they require, with road closures, obviously police presence. And so in supporting these events, council recommended that open streets get extra money to be able to fund their municipal service costs, and that's where the 12 and 13 make it up to 25.
Okay, that's helpful. I just couldn't remember why we didn't make that change. I just knew it had something to do with the province. So
right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Emily, you're next.
Great. Lots of good questions today. My question is on page 3 of the report. I'm looking at under where it says 2020 in bold and then also in 2021, where it says 27 of the 44 festivals canceled their events due to the ongoing pandemic. And apologies if this is in the report and I missed it when I read through, but I was wondering for both years when they had canceled events, what happened to that funding? Were they required to return the funding? Were they able to roll it over? And then if they returned it, what happened to that funding? Did it get allocated into the municipal budget that year or rolled forward, or?
Through you, Chair, to the committee member, most of those cancellations, we were in constant contact with them, so the grant was not released. So they never had to return it.
Okay, so if the funding wasn't released, what happened to the excess budget that year?
That went into the general operating budget of general revenues.
Okay, great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Emily. Joe, I have you next on the list.
You do. I just have one question about one event specifically, the Downtown Dartmouth Ice Festival. 2021-2022, they had a grant of 7,500, but they're getting an increase of 17,000 to 25,000 requested proposed. I just want to know if you could shed any light on that, because that's a fairly hefty increase.
Through you, Chair, to the committee member. Yes, it is a hefty increase, and it's a very hefty increase in their attendance numbers as well. They started out a very small event, and I believe they reported 400 times the amount of people that they had expected attended the event this year. They've had mass marketing. There were, I think, 5,000 people at the event, which is extraordinary. We also feel very strongly and have been working with Discover Halifax and Events Nova Scotia to support off-shoulder or winter events, which is very important to obviously the hotels and to the businesses. And this event has really ticked all the boxes as far as providing all that. And we wanted to help them grow it even bigger so that they might want to consider doing something on the Halifax side as well.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Thank you
You're
very
welcome.
much. And Alana, our Vice Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A more general question. I wonder if HRM has ever considered having an online or face-to-face call for proposals for these grants with potentially interested community groups in the past. I just wonder because, you know, I've heard a few times from HRM personnel about the amount of individual contact with different organizations. And I wonder if there might be an opportunity to reduce that workload by having orientation sessions. Also, I wonder if, I know there's a lot of work that's done around publicizing opportunities for community grants. I've shared them myself on social media. And I just wonder if there's an opportunity to make it more visible to community groups that haven't applied in the past. And also it might be an opportunity to cover such questions as eligibility criteria, that scoring criteria, how proposals are scored. That was mentioned earlier. Just a general question. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Awesome question.
Thank you, Vice Chair, through you, Madam Chair. A couple of things. We don't feel that we need our workload reduced. We like the one-on-one with our clients. We feel that that is actually part of our service delivery. And we take great pride in knowing our clients. As far as a call for proposals, we haven't done that, although I don't know how that would work in a grant program. I'd have to think about that and get back to you. I do call for proposals when it's a piece of public art. Usually for an event, like we would we would do actually we would do a request for proposals for a large event like the Tall Ships. You know, we would work with Develop Nova Scotia. So yes, that is definitely a possibility. As far as orientations, we've done orientations and they've been very limitedly attended. In fact, and that's I don't know why, frankly. I think sometimes people prefer the one-on-one or through online as opposed to showing up somewhere in a room, but we have done them and they've not been successful as far as the attendance goes. That's why when we get an application that has the email and the phone number of somebody that, you know, that's when we try to contact them right away and you know, we'll help them redirect their application or, you know, change the number if they feel that they understand it from a, you know, from a conversation. And as far as putting it on social media, I know we do because it comes from my budget, and we invest quite significantly in Facebook ads, and we do a lot through our social media as far as tweeting, the actual on civic events. I think we have 3 channels that we use. We also are on the HRM Arts listserv that does festivals and events. We also are on the province. So I know we do have a lot of investment in social media. Sometimes, you know, we get applications or interest in the program from unusual places because we also work with parades, and we, you know, my department looks after the float. We'll get sort of a call from somebody who wants the float at their community event, and then we'll say to them, well, you know what, have you thought about funding? We fund community events, and so that's sort of organically how that happens as well. But I definitely take your point about call for proposals. Thank you for that. We could do that. The thing is, when they're organized by someone else and then they receive money from us, that's the only thing I'd have to get my head around. But I could talk to legal and our finance people to report back to you at the next meeting if you'd like. I could just send a memo.
Through Madam Chair, thank you very much, Elizabeth. I appreciate that response. And if you think it would be useful to follow up in a future meeting, then sure, that would be very much appreciated.
Great, definitely. Thanks for the question.
Sounds like a plan. Thank you. Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you, Alana, for the question. We have Stefan next with a question.
Yes, a question for staff through you, Chair. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. So my question is about the Atlantic Canadian Irish Dance Championships. I could see that there was $20,000 requested and proposed it's $5,000 per year. It sounds like a great event. I can see that it's being held in Halifax this year. My question is, I didn't see where it was going to be held in subsequent years, and I was wondering if the $5,000 per year going forward beyond this year is contingent upon it being held in HRM.
Sherry, I'll ask you through the chair to answer that, if you can.
Sure. So the first part of your question is regarding the funding amount. And so this is the first time this event is happening here in Halifax. It is, you know, a smaller type event with a small number of attendants. The large ask and the smaller funded amount relates to our scoring criteria, which, you know, we can certainly share more specifically. And also to note that this Cultural Showcases and Events program has a maximum of $200,000 to fund everyone. So within that 200,000, we have to allocate, according to our scoring criteria. And usually every year, the 200,000 is recommended to fund the whole entire amount. And this is first time coming to Halifax, but they do plan on making it an annual event. So
Great.
this 200,000 is multi-year funding. So the Atlantic Canadian Irish Dance Championships, we are recommending 5,000 to be funded in 2022, 5,000 in 2023, and 5,000 in 2024.
Thank you, Sherry. I think the second part of that question, I thought I heard Steph say, is in the subsequent years, is it held in Halifax?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Well, it's held in HRM this year, 2022. It's being hosted in downtown Halifax at a hotel, I do believe. The location for 2023 and 2024 is yet to be determined, but as per the AO, must be held within the Halifax Regional Municipality borders.
Okay, yeah, that's basically the crux of my question is what happens to the $5,000 next year and the following year if, for example, they host it in the fine town of Antigonish?
Good question. So then, as per the AO, we only fund events within our municipal borders. So if by chance this event for some reason has to go to Antigonish, then we would not fund that event, and that $5,000 would go back into our municipal budget.
Okay.
It would not be released. Yeah.
All right. Has that been communicated to them?
And also just to
Sherry, you're freezing
I
up
just
again.
wanted to add before any I
can't hear anything.
apologize. I will shut my video off. Is my voice coming through more clear?
Yes,
It
it
is.
is.
Thank you. Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to add, before any event grants are released, we do reach out to each organization, after Regional Council final approves the event and grant amount, and an agreement is required to be signed. So there's lots of conversations that are had between the event organizer and staff before releasing any grant amount. So if by chance your Antigonish example was at play, then we would know that long before releasing that grant to that organization.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. It looks like we have a question from Alex. No, sorry, Joe. Joe before Alex.
I just have two questions. So with the transition back to in-person events or hybrid events,
Yes.
has the timeline for event submissions been extended at all, or has there been any leniency in the ability for us to give people like a longer period of time this year because of the transition back to in-person events? People are going to have to look at, I went from a in-person model to a virtual to a hybrid to now I'm back in person. So was there any extension at all this year for application submissions, or was there any like a longer timeline given for people to submit applications? That's my first question. I'd like to answer that one first.
Thank you. Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. Yes, very good question. And yes, we extended the program twice for that very reason. And we had very few applicants the first round, and we realized that there was something very wrong. And we suspected it was because of COVID. And as I said at the beginning of the meeting, there were quite a few volunteer groups that were just fatigued. And so we extended the program again. or the first time. And we emailed and called everyone and left messages, and we received, I would say, another 25% of our sort of annual applicants. And then we said, you know what, let's do it one more time. So we extended it twice. We've been very lenient, I would say, in keeping to, you know, the boundaries that we have to. We can only work within, you know, we can't, I guess what I'm trying to say is the memo that is about Patriot Days would give you a good example of, you know, when we didn't hear from somebody, we tried to alert people many times. And when we didn't hear, we basically had to sort of say, okay, we've done everything we can. But I would say this year particularly, we were very sensitive to the fact that it's been a rough few years for groups. And that's why we did the 2 extensions. That's sort of a long way of answering you.
Perfect. That answers my question 100%. Now, my other question was, aside from timeline challenges or like applicant submissions, were there any other challenges that that the team would have faced or have, you know, come across that would have made this process more challenging this year, like when facing virtual versus in-person events that you would never have faced before? I was trying to figure out like what challenges when putting this report together the legislative assistants actually faced when looking at submissions this year.
So just through you, Madam Chair, so we write the report, the legislative assistant doesn't write the report. Right. It's myself and Sherry. As far as the challenges go, it's a good question because we had to review reports from virtual events over the last couple of years. And in some cases, they were very new to us and very new to the organizations that were putting them on. And some found they costed maybe 50% of what an in-person event would cost, and some costed the same as an in-person event would cost. It depended on what they actually produced. So that was a challenge for us to try to come up with a formula that would allow or give the opportunity to groups who wanted to keep a hybrid model in their events and that they could still get 100% funding, because really part of the positive about a virtual event is that it extends the messaging and for many of our events, you know, to be able to reach like Nocturne, or to be able to reach audiences across, you know, globally, I suppose, if you wanted to push it that far. Certainly through Atlantic Canada and nationally, there was a lot of uptake, and we felt that was really important to Halifax and to give them the opportunity to do that. But for in writing the report, I think for us, our challenges are, do we have enough money to be able to provide the opportunity to groups to give entertainment, free entertainment to their communities, and to be a mechanism for people to come together and to share a voice for the arts, for culture, for newcomers, which is very important. And that's the whole idea of being more diverse and attracting more festivals from a diverse newcomer perspective is so important to us. because you've got to grow these events, and they need the help to be able to understand the climate here. And so, you know, that's also a welcome challenge, I would say, because they educate us on the messages that they want to get out. And that started, you know, a long time ago with the Greek festival, you know, and the Lebanese festival. And we've all learned, you know, what those festivals, you know, 10 years down the road can do to or for a community. So I'd say it's the virtual, being able to value that properly and give organizations the chance to do both without being punitive. You know, sometimes you just, virtual is all you can do. Now we want and we're encouraging in-person activity. Everyone is, I think, to get businesses up and running again. But yeah, virtual and helping our newcomers to be able to enter into our event world, I think, would be the two challenges that we faced in reviewing this year, and hoping for more money. Like we always hope for more money.
Yeah, so when I was looking through it, I was kind of getting the same sense as where we have, you know, larger events that are kind of on the verge of kind of getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and we're on that cusp now where we have this kind of a blend where we have smaller events that are growing, ever growing every year, and then we have events that already are large. And so it's kind of that balance where, you know, we already have these events that are sustainable and they already have, you know, an ever growing community behind them to ensure that they are continuously growing every year. And then we have events that are coming up that also require our support, right? So I do agree with you that, you know, of course, they're always going to come down to, you know, finances at the end of the day to ensure that we can support both parties. But I just had some concerns of, you know, where we have events are already established, you know, how long do we continue to support those events while we have other events that are coming up right behind us, being like, we are also growing to a bigger community and a larger, you know, a larger base that we also need to support too. So
that's such a keen observation. And, you know, we tried to do it in our other event grant program. We tried to wean events off because we felt very strongly that, you know, if you've been a client of 15 years of the municipal event grant program and you're, you know, a well-oiled machine and you know you're getting your attendance, perhaps it's time for us to slowly reduce your funding and allow then, you know, openings just as you say. And I will tell you, it did not go over well at all. So we haven't done that. And I think you're right about the balance. It's going to be as more people come to the region, you know, you've said it straight up, there's going to be more festivals, events, and we need to look at how we're going to spread that funding around if we don't get increases. So thanks for bringing that to the attention.
Thank you, Elizabeth. We'll go on now.
Councillors.
Great. We'll go on now to Alex.
Along the same lines, yes, Madam Chair. Is it the role of this committee to make recommendations to council to increase that $200,000 ceiling for the 3 years after? I mean, did we have the same limit 3 years ago? I wasn't around. I don't recall. And yeah, how do we get to council that we would like to see that increase?
Good question, Alex. Elizabeth, I'm going to say that I believe that this might be a conversation that happens at budget. Just happen to have the chair of audit and finance and budget here in the room.
You're absolutely right, Chair. You know, there's several ways of doing it. We usually put it in as an over in our budget every year. And you know, it just depends again on priorities, whether or not it's accepted or not. It wasn't accepted this year, but we'll try again, you know, we'll try again in 3 years, absolutely.
And the members of council on this committee will champion that ask, I'm sure.
Wonderful.
So not seeing any other questions, could I ask for the indulgence of the mover and the seconder that we continue with the last section of the motion because it's written as one motion. So Joe, maybe if you might want to continue to read through the second half of the motion, and then we'll get to that focused conversation on
What page are we on here? Let's
Development
see.
Association.
Let's see here. Here we go, the final three. Okay, the Grants Committee recommends that Halifax Regional Council, 1, approve a supplemental grant withdrawal from the Community and Events Reserve Q621 in the amount of $10,000 to the Sackville Community Development Association for the 2022 Patriot Days in the Regional Special Events Program. Number 2, pending final approval of the 2023-2024 budget, approve a supplementary grant withdrawal from the Community and Events Reserve Q621 in the amount of $10,000 to the Sackville Community Development Association for the 2023 Patriot Days in the Regional Special Events Program. And number 3, pending final approval of the 2024-2025 budget, approve a supplementary grant withdrawal from the Community and Events Reserve Q621 in the amount of $10,000 to the Sackville Community Development Association for the 2024 Patriot Days in the Regional Events Program.
Second.
Thank you. I just noticed that Alana said BRB. Oh, be right back. Oh, sorry.
I'm back.
Learning about these little acronyms, eh?
Either that or she saw a burb.
Alana, are you back there to continue?
I am back. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. So you're okay with the original second then?
Yes, please. Okay.
And Lisa, we have you first on the list.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair, and thank you to the members of the committee. I'm just wondering if there's an appetite at the committee level for an amendment. I'd like to amend this this part of the motion to read $20,000 as opposed to $10,000. And a little bit of backstory here that the Sackville Community Development Association is a little bit in rebuilding mode. COVID really knocked the stuffing out of the volunteers of this group. You noted at the top of the meeting that Sackville Councillor Paul Russell is joining us this morning, and actually Councillor Russell was the backbone of the organizing committee for this event, which includes the massive Sackville Patriot Days parade, which goes the entire length of Sackville Drive and is incredibly well attended by thousands in the community. And Councillor Russell took care of, he was in charge of the care and feeding of this this group for many, many years. Upon his election to council, he handed over the keys to somebody else. And then COVID hit. And, when Ms. Taylor was speaking earlier about the ravages of COVID, this is one of those groups that really took it hard. And really, to be blunt, not much was done for the last 2 years. So Councillor Russell has regrouped the team. They are well on their way now to putting on this event under new leadership. They have just finalized the budget. And as you can appreciate, fundraising for this group has been near impossible the last 2 years with COVID. I will note that $20,000 is the amount that has been given to this group in the past. It was also a victim of timing in that, traditionally last year, or a couple of years ago, they would have gone for their next 3-year cycle. And because of the state of COVID and the group, that didn't happen. So with your indulgence, I'd like to propose an amendment to this grant in the amount of $20,000 as opposed to $10,000. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lisa. Is there a seconder for that amendment?
Second, Alana.
Thank you, Alana. And so discussion on the amendment from the group. Alex, I have your name, I'm thinking. Yes.
Yes. Lisa, it says in the discussion on, where are we? Page, I can't find it now. There's no page number. Anyway, it says in the discussion that the municipality will contribute no more than 60% of expenses required to cover program costs. if the program costs are 21,195, does that mean that the council can only approve 60% of that figure rather than 20,000, which is almost 100%?
Thank you for the question, Alex. Elizabeth, would that go to you for an answer?
Thank you, Chair. I could tell you that council has the opportunity and ability to do anything they would like as far as funding goes. So there is a clause in the AO, the administrative order that governs this, that says notwithstanding, council can make any determination on funding as they so choose. So that was simply to explain to you why staff could not make the recommendation. However, to be able to obviously provide the opportunity for council to be able to do that.
Okay, thank you, Elizabeth. I see on our list Lindell next, and then Councillor Russell says that he has some background that he can provide. So Lindell, would you like to go next? Or would you like Councillor Russell to give some more background?
I'll go, and maybe there's something in there that might need some background too. And just really quickly, Alex, did you got your question good? You're okay?
Yes, I did. Thanks.
Okay, cool. So my question was similar. So thanks, Alex, for asking it, because it does say the 60%, but now understanding that council can make that determination if needed. I do wonder about the third paragraph or the second paragraph from that last one that mentioned the 60%, where it says established festivals category that receive funding in the range of 4,500, 7,000, the 7-day length. The festival staff recommend 10,000. So I'm just wondering two things. Are there other, and I could probably reference in answer this question, but maybe Elizabeth, you might know it off top, but what other festivals within this category would have received 100% or close to 100%? And the other question really is, does this, well, actually there's three questions. So one is what any other categories that received 100%. Two is the funding into, like, is there enough funding within this fiscal to add the 10,000, the extra $10,000 to this? And the other one is, does us changing this here at this level for this event, when similar events who staff analyzed who didn't get 100, does that cause any potential friction with other organizations that might not be happy of the final number that they're receiving if we approve this?
Through you, Madam Chair.
Great questions there, Linda. Thank you. Elizabeth, on to you.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. There is no event that is funded at close to 100%. No client has received close to 100% of their budget for funding in either of the HRM event grant programs. The changing the level of funding, you know, that is always a question. There were extenuating circumstances that I believe the budget may not have, it may have been rushed, and there may be items in the budget that were not included at the time of the application, which in fact could show that perhaps there was more. We could only score on what we were given at the time. Some of the festivals that would be similar in attendance when we did comparison, like, pardon me, the Cow Bay Festival, those types of events would be comparable. And pardon me, we funded at a high level for Sackville or for the Patriot Days. But, you know, we haven't heard from any organization that has applied. And of course, this report was public on Friday. So we would have had time probably to hear from a few dissatisfied clients who felt that this wasn't a fair process. And I don't believe, I think because everyone received their, or most everyone received their ask, that it's not an issue, but there's always an, you know, when you change because of extenuating circumstances, there's always, I guess, a risk, a small risk that somebody might want to have their application reviewed, which of course we would be open to. And should we want to move it forward, we would contact, you know, our executive director and would go through the process as we did with Patriot Days, if that was an issue.
And this one might be something, so thank you, really, Elizabeth, for that. And maybe this one could be for Paul or Lisa. So is this request coming from the Sackville Community Development Association, or is this more of the counselors wanting to support the organization itself?
So I think the response to that might come in some of the information from Councillor Russell. So maybe we'll hear from Paul at the moment, if that's acceptable to the group. Thanks.
Yep. Thank you very much. And thank you for letting me take part in the meeting. I appreciate it. This is an organization that has been going on for, well, longer than I've been involved with it. I've only been involved with it since 2010. And the FCDA has been going on for easily 20 years. Patriot Days has been going on for easily 20 years. And it's a week of events around Canada Day. Some of them happen at the Springfield Lake Rec Center. Some of them happen on June 30, where we have a concert in the park and then fireworks. And then on Canada Day, we have the parade that goes down Sackville Drive, as Councillor Blackburn mentioned, and a couple of other things like Teddy Bear's Picnic. And there are some of these events that do have a higher amount of funding, for example, the fireworks. There is also a huge community draw with it. There has always been. We get 12,000 people watching the parade that goes down Sackville Drive. Even in 2017, when we had the parade on Canada Day in the middle of a downpour, it was absolutely soaking. Everybody got, and the attendance was all the way down to 6,000 people who came out to watch the parade on Canada Day in a downpour. It was amazing. So we have always budgeted $20,000 as the ask from HRM. And I say we because, again, this is something that I have been in charge of basically since, until I became councillor and then handed the reins off to someone else. But we've always budgeted $20,000 and have always been fortunate enough to receive $20,000. So the report says 2015 to 20,000 or to 2019. That is, I believe, in this funding model, but that amount predates the 20,000. That amount predates 2015 by years. So this would simply be continuing what the community and what the group have been doing for a number of years. We pivoted in 2020 when we weren't able to have crowds get together. We weren't able to have the fireworks or the concert or the parade because we didn't know. We just couldn't get people together. So we pivoted and had a drive-in movie theater that went for 4 nights. And if you're going to have a drive-in movie for 4 nights, unfortunately, it's going to cost right about $20,000. And then last year, there was nothing. When I handed the reins off to someone else, they have been a community member and volunteer and have done a number of things to help out the community. The timing didn't work and they took another job, and that other job meant that they were able to give this a lot less attention. So when this came to my attention was when they had passed the final date for requesting the funding, and that's why it's not included in the report itself. Is because the person who had the new job was not able to follow through on that. So I've rebuilt the SCDA. We have a new group of people in charge of it, new people who are running all of the events, and some of them have been around for a long, long time, which is great. And some of them are brand new, which is also great. We are trying to rebuild the volunteer base, the volunteer capacity in Sackville, and it's having a positive effect. With all of that, I would simply appreciate your support for the additional amount of funding for this year and going forward. And I am available for any questions of clarification or of anything else. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Paul. Councillor Russell. Any other questions on the amendment? And the amendment would be to change 10,000 in item 1, 2, and 3 in each of them to 20,000. Any other questions on the amendments?
I have a quick question.
Trish?
Madam Chair.
Oh,
sorry.
Trish beat you to it, Alex.
Trish was first, okay.
Thank you.
I'm quick on the draw. Actually, normally I'm not quick on the draw, so. I was just wondering, so I thought the report said that we had used the available funds. So where would this extra 10,000 come from if we were to approve this amendment?
So the reserve, the motion says that it would come from the reserve Q621.
That's correct. Through you, Madam Chair, there's a reserve that is for opportunities that is well funded. I believe there's a balance at the bottom of the report that could accommodate this without any issue.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Trish. Alex, you're up.
Yeah, quote unquote, without any issue. So does that mean that the extra funding, if it was approved, would not affect anything that we would approve now? It's not going to impact any other organization?
Thank you for the question, Alex. Elizabeth?
Through you, Madam Chair, no, it will not affect any of our clients. If you approve the motions with the recommendations for funding, it will not.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So seeing no further questions, call for the question on the amendment. All those, thank you. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, signify by saying nay. Abstentions? Motion carried. Thank you very much for the lovely conversation to get us to this point. And so now we can call for the question on the entire motion, please.
Question.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion as amended?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you for excellent conversation and discussion. This is a really engaged, great committee.
And thank you, everybody, for your support. I really appreciate it.
There you go. 9.2 says grants committee none. 9.3 committee member updates. Why do I feel like I'm missing something? Nope. Okay. No added items. The date of our next meeting is June 8th, 2022. And the location discussion. So in the June 8th, the reason it says discussion, the June 8th meeting is when we will probably be looking at another robust report from staff, which will be on the community grants program. And at our April meeting, we started the conversation about the intention to, when it's those big meetings, maybe to try to be in person, as virtual sometimes can be challenging when we've got a pretty heavy agenda to look at. So I'm just wondering if we could go around and by a show of hands or in the chat, to get people's opinions about whether or not we want to consider it being in person for that June 8th meeting.
Real quick, if I may, Madam Chair, June 8th, I've got June 15th in my calendar. And that calendar was sent to me by staff. So are we talking about it moving it to a different Wednesday?
Yes, Alex, that's exactly what happened. And I apologize. The wanted it to get it to June 8th so that the recommendation could be ready for the following regional council meeting. And if we went to the 15th, we would have missed the regional council. And there's a lot of community groups that are really looking to make sure that they've got their answers to their requests.
Yeah,
so that's why.
Thanks. Yeah.
So any comments on in-person or virtual for June 8th?
Madam Chair, if I may.
Please.
For the larger reports, I actually feel it would be more beneficial if we were in person. For us to have these lengthy discussions, I feel it'd be more beneficial. So I'm in favor of, for the longer ones, in person, but for more of the intermediate short ones, or less than an hour, I feel that their virtual would be preferred for those type.
Great, thank you. And Trish put in the chat that she likes in person, and we have Lisa for a comment as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat as Joey. I'm definitely in favor of virtual for the short, quick snappers. But yeah, if we've got a longer, more robust agenda for June, I'm guessing that it would be at Halifax Hall that we would meet. Yeah, and having attended a few meetings recently at Halifax Hall, they do an excellent job of separating us all around that big table. And yeah, so I'm certainly in favor of in person for June the 8th. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think now Leona is in an amazing time in her life that she may be becoming a mom again. So I'm not sure. She might find June 8th a challenge, but.
Just a point, Madam Chair, I work on a 2-week schedule. So had it been June 15th, I would have been at work and I could not have attended. However, moving it to June the 8th, June the 8th is a day off for me, so I can attend.
Awesome. Alana?
Sorry about that. I didn't mean to put my hand up, but I'll go ahead.
Sure.
Yes, I completely agree. I would love to see people face to face, considering I wasn't able to get my video camera working today. All the more reason. So I concur with everybody today. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Emily, would you like to chime in?
Sure. I think I'm fine either way. If I recall last time we talked about this, I feel like Leona might have said that being in person wasn't safe for her. I don't want to speak for her, but I feel like that is what she said last time. I don't know if anyone else recalls what she said. But yes, either way is fine for me, in person or virtual. I think maybe later in the summer, I'm often out of town. So maybe July, August, virtual is easier for a lot of people who are on vacation. But I think June, most people are still in the office or downtown. So that's fine for me.
Great, thank you. Stefan, how do you feel about our option?
My partner is also pregnant right now. We're expecting our first child at the end of July. So unless we have a early visitor, I will be available for in person. I would appreciate it if there was enforced social distancing.
Absolutely.
But because we are, for her benefit, trying to limit our public exposure. But again, I echo most people's comments in that I prefer in person as well for the longer meetings. But yeah, like I said, if we're distanced and hopefully if people are masked, I have no problem with it.
Awesome. Thank you. And congratulations early. So it looks like we've got pretty much consensus. Lindell, I think maybe you're the only one I haven't heard from yet.
Whatever works for the group.
Whatever works for the group. Okay. Okay, well, I think we're pretty much decided that we can be in person, absolutely with social distancing, absolutely wearing a mask, and protecting each other the best way that we can. So I thank you so very, very much. That is awesome. And again, you know, the questions and the discussion and the depth of reading that everybody does on these reports, it's so appreciated. Thank you so very much. Committee that does great work. Thank you. So now I guess we get to ask for an adjournment and also say thank you to our amazing staff as well. So somebody want to adjourn us?
Yeah, I'll call.
Thank you, Joe. Our meeting is adjourned and we'll see you on June 8th.
Beautiful.
everyone.
Thank you so
Bye.
much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Katie and team.
Yes, same.
Okay.